India could be the next Asian powerhouse when it comes to growth. Fund managers looking more closely at the region as structural weakness have left places like South Africa and Brazil particularly exposed to external shocks. On the flip side, India next in line for a free trade agreement with us, primed for domestic growth and open for business. That's been particularly highlighted this week by charismatic Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, who's just returned home from his trip to Australia. Well, for more, I spoke a short time ago with Sheba, Nandkeolyar, CEO and co-founder of Multi Connections and National Vice Chair of the Australia-India Business Council.
Ingrid, thank you for having me here. I guess this is something which has happened after a long time in India. And as you know, that it's been almost 30 years since any leader has been chosen with the clear majority that he has been chosen with. And I guess it's his personality, which is a very can-do personality. It's a personality which is almost like a CEO running a corporation rather than a political leader running a company, a country. And when it's a CEO kind of an attitude and mindset, it's all about deadlines and it's all about workable solutions. And I have to say that the Modi magic was so evident because I was there in Sydney the day he addressed. It was just amazing how rapt the whole crowd was. And I do remember a couple of people who said that couple of days before, they were actually in the very same venue listening to a rock concert, but they had not seen the kind of reception that Mr. Modi got compared to the rock concert that happened earlier on.
That's where he gets his rock star name from. So,
yes.
Look, does his savvy social media presence help as well? I mean, I think he's the second most followed leader in the world with over 6 million followers on Twitter, and he does these Google Hangouts and live chats online. I mean, how does that help sort of convey his image, I guess?
I guess what he has done is he's realized that there is youth there in India as well as world over. And the one thing that he keeps talking about is the 3 Ds, which is, you know, obviously one of which is democracy, one of which is demography, and the third one is demand. And when he's talking about demography, he's talking about the youth advantage that India has, almost 800 million people who are under the age of 35. So he has connected and he's realized that the traditional media is not just the only way to connect, but social media, he's just following exactly the receptivity points that these youth believe in, and which is social media and online. And he's gone all length with that, and he's just connected so well, so beautifully with all of them.
He does sometimes polarize people, sometimes being reviewed as a divisive and somewhat controversial figure, particularly some saying his style of incremental reform in India may be too slow to propel India back to double-digit growth. What's your take on that?
I reckon there are, sections of society who are still, and even in the Indian community and in India, who are still a little bit doubtful, would he be able to achieve what he is promising to? But I'll give you 3 examples of what he's done very recently. Number one is, he said that the very basic minimum that a person needs is a bank account. And you have so many poor people who cannot open a bank account. Guess why? Because they have no credit history, they don't have money to deposit. So he actually shared the story with us where he said that he went first to the Reserve Bank, who said it might take 3 years to work out a process to do that. He went to one of the largest banks in India, who said it might take 2 years. He went to his own department, who said 1 year. And he said, I just took the opportunity on a public speech to announce that, guess what? Every person can open a bank account with $0 deposit, and this was meant for the poor people. What he managed was, in 10 weeks, he had 71 million bank accounts which opened up. And what he also shared was, because I had so much trust in the people and I said they're poor, they have no money, and we'll give them a 0 deposit bank account, they actually felt that he had so much of trust in them that whatever little earnings we have, meager income we have, let's put it in and open this bank account. And he actually geared up 5,000 crores of rupees, which is amazing.
Yeah, and this is why a lot of fund managers here in Australia are pushing for investment into India. And I know he's also, Mr. Modi's also pushed the agenda of India being open for business around the world as an alternative to China. In your view, is India the new Asian powerhouse?
I would absolutely say so. I was very, very lucky to have been in the delegation which Mr. Abbott took to India. So I was actually very much privy to a whole lot of things that I saw happening in front of me. One of which was absolutely the message that remove red tape and roll out the red carpet. And that's what he wants for investors. Something which was very interesting, which he shared at Sydney, was that how can we expect investors to come in and expect them to adjust to us? They are coming for a quality of life. And he actually went back and shared how he attracted Japanese investments in Ahmedabad when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, where he said that I knew that they were very fond of golf. So the first thing I said was, I turned around to my people and said, guys, if you want the Japanese to come here and invest, you have to make sure that you create golf, create golf courses for them. So his take on the way he is promoting India and wanting to get rid of the red tapeism is amazing. Another thing which he shared, which was in Melbourne, was that all the previous governments were insisting on making rules after rules. His government is really insisting on getting rid of those rules. So I think that's a big take on how things are going to happen.
And speaking of that, you know, trade obviously top of the agenda in the G20, and also internal discussions between Mr. Abbott and Mr. Modi here in Australia. A free trade agreement looking to be signed within the next year. What will be the key sort of items of interest in that, and the benefits, I guess, for both India and Australia?
Okay, this is a really interesting one, and this actually cropped up again. Very lucky to have been there when he addressed the Australian Parliament, and this definitely came up, where he felt that there is going to be definitely a very strategic relationship and a partnership between Australia and India going forward, which was frankly lacking. He also felt that the FTA trade, the Virtual Free Trade Agreement, or the CECA as we call it, should definitely be fast-tracked now. And I know Mr. Abbott, when he was in India, he actually requested Andrew Robb to say that I would really like this to be completed and done with by 2016. And we know that there are 5 rounds of talks which have been held from, I think it was 11th of May 2011. That was the first round of talk that started, and 5 rounds since then. The last one was in 2013, and it's been almost a year that everything has stalled. And this has been picked up again by both the prime ministers, and I think both of them have a very can-do attitude. And it looks to me that in a year and a half, we'll be pretty much seeing another virtual free trade agreement being signed between Australia and India.
How does uranium play into this? Because that's obviously been a key point of discussion in the past week.
Yes, I think uranium is going to play a very, it's going to play a role, and a key role. I think the very fact that Mr. Abbott went and signed up and said Australia is now open to looking at uranium exports. But more interestingly, he did make a statement which was really interesting, because that got picked up by every single Indian media, and that was the news breaking, which said Australia trusts India that it would do the right thing. And I think the fact that by taking this decision, really the trust factor has come through, that Australia trusts India, which has been actually accepted extremely well in India. Secondly, I think I should also mention that in his speech at the Parliament, Mr. Modi spoke about coal and how essential that, how important it is for India to get more of the coal resources and supply. And uranium is another way where we can, and he is able to actually ensure that those hundreds and thousands of villages and people who are without power will be able to actually access power. And more importantly, remember, it has some good green emission story too when it comes to uranium power.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of investment from India into Australia and vice versa. But what does the picture actually look like now? And we've got longer to go, but what does it look like now?
I have to say that the picture is not very good. Not too bad in the sense, like from a 3 billion over 5 years or 6 years, it has gone to 15 billion, but not good enough, which is only basically 10% of the 150 billion, that China and Australia are doing. I think India's time has come. India has been neglected, has not really been in the forefront of being even considered as a strategic partner or a relationship with Australia. But with Mr. Modi, he has recognized that Australia is going to play an important role, as also Mr. Abbott has made that very clear. Opposition leaders spoke about it. So I think definitely now we're going to see a fast tracking of this trade and business relationship. We at AIBC, being the national vice chair of AIBC, we are very, very pleased with this meeting, because we can see what has happened is it has absolutely taken this relationship to an all new level now.